Gaming and BS, episode 243, coming to you May 19th, 2019. Welcome to Gaming and BS, a tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Glad to have everybody here. How you doing, Sean?
Doing fantastic, Brad. I killed a character this weekend.
Did you? So did I.
Yay!
Yay!
Cheers all the way around.
Was yours your son's character?
Was it my son's character?
Yeah, I killed AJ's guy.
Oh, yeah.
He got knocked down, and Alana's character is trying to lead the fire giant out of the cave. And as it sends the lesser Fomorian to go chase down Alana's character, I said the fire giant looks at AJ's body, and AJ goes, "It steps on my head to make sure that I'm dead." That's exactly.
You know, it's weird because I have a literally a 10-person party this past weekend, and a player was out.
10 character or 10?
Sorry, 10 character party.
Okay, because that's different. I've run games for like 13, 15 people. That's a lot.
10 character party, and one person was out. And then they also summoned monsters. So I'm getting a little tired of them walking through their 6th level, and if you throw a CR whatever at them,
CR52, you got to kill some PCs, man.
Yeah,
think of the poor monsters.
I know.
Think of the monsters.
They have rights too.
Yeah. Oh, I bought a new bow. That was cool.
Wow, it's the best shopping experience you've ever had.
Yeah, it was. That was amazing. The guys at Papa's Trading Post out in Arena,
Papa's
Wisconsin.
Trading Post.
In case anybody in the Wisconsin area wants to go to the world's best Matthews archery dealer ever, these guys are amazing. It was great.
Amazing.
Yeah. The only thing that comes close is when Sauk Prairie used to have the Harley shop, and this was even better than that. The guys at Sauk were amazing, but they're not there anymore. And I don't ride bikes anymore. So anyhow, this was awesome. It was very, very fun.
Well, that's fantastic, Brett.
Yes.
We should move on so we don't bore these people to death.
Oh, but hunting talk, fun. Anyway, moving on. Gaming talk. That's what we're here for. All right. So let's see here. AwesomeDice.com. We still doing that? Is that still cooking?
It is I think the last month is May to do that. But James Sweetland, you're probably a little bit behind listening, but you did win for April. So let us know if it's okay to pass your email along to Awesome Dice. And if you'd like to win a set of Awesome Dice, then you will go to our website at gamingandbs.com. You will find the field for entering your email into our email list, not to be confused with our contact list or contact us. And then once you are on our email list, we will have a drawing at the end of the month for you to win a free set of dice from Awesome Dice. I believe the qualified countries are Australia, America, UK, Canada, maybe New Zealand. So for those that are not in those countries, I apologize.
Cool. So GameholeCon.com.
Yes.
I have 3 events in. They've all been approved. So let's see here. Friday, November 1st at 1300 hours. Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker is going. All 3 of these are Avalon games. Saturday at 1300 hours is Vera's Wrath. And then let's see here. Thursday at 1300 hours. All right. I got Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Perfect. Is a Fish Story. So all 3 of those. Thursday, Friday, Saturday I'm running.
Wow.
How about all the games you submitted, Sean? How are those doing?
I'm waiting for Mr. Corey Welsh to submit my game for me, which I will be running and involved in.
The Great Gatsby? Gatsby the Great Race?
Yes, Gatsby and the Great Race. I am reading the adventure currently right now as we speak. And so I will be a part of that. And I don't know if they're only going to run one round of it or not. Since it's on Halloween, I don't know if Corey's like ambitious enough to run 2 rounds, but we'll see.
Oof.
Yeah. if you're not familiar with that and haven't heard what that is about in the last game or last episodes when I was at GaryCon, it's a multi-table up to probably 32-person event. It is quite. I've heard Call of Cthulhu aficionados like Forrest and Gary say it's the best gaming experience he's ever had.
Yes, he has indeed said that.
And I will uphold that reputation, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, of course you will.
Yeah.
So we'll have a link in the show notes for this as well, but just so we don't accidentally forget, friend of our show, friend of Sean and I, David Beatty, has a Kickstarter, Dark Trails. So speaking of really fun, amazing, like Cthulhu-y type stuff. So it's in that Weird West genre. It is fun. I played it. I've got the t-shirt. Literally, it is a damn good game. David's a great guy. And I was IMing him on Facebook. I said, "You're an asshole." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because you needed $12,000 and you're already at 24,600." So he's got 27 days to go as of today, the 19th. But yeah, he's already making. I said, "You're already more successful than I was. Damn you." It's a different build-up and whatnot. But anyway, congrats to Dave for that. I think if all goes well, Sean, you and I are going to have him on the show because I'd like to talk a little bit about Westerns as a genre. And I want to kind of stick, as we tend to, we'll get him on to talk about the Western genre, Weird West, and so on, and give him a chance to talk a little bit about Kickstarter, but mostly to focus on the Western. So anyway, that is coming. Let's see. Oh, and evercon.org. Go out there, take a look at that. It's in January, and people always say, "Oh, January, it's a long way off." But if you get your plans in now, you get your game submitted, you start figuring shit out, you will have a hell of a lot easier time, making those plans actually happen. So anyway, plan now. Get yourself ready. Go out to evercon.org, and hope to see you there. Sean, anything else new, crazy that we need to talk about?
No, not till like die roll and all the rest of the stuff we've got to cover.
Perfect. All right.
All right, let's get into Random Encounter. This is where we field emails, voicemails, comments from social media. The first one we have out of the gates is a voicemail from Chris of House Shorb.
Lay it on me.
Hey, Brett and Sean, it's Chris Shorb. How are you guys? Just listening to your episode on meta currencies in the game, and I thought maybe the name wasn't really felt like you guys just talked about inspiration in D&D, and not so much talking about the other currencies and what it is that makes a currency work, how it drives behavior on the player's part. That notwithstanding, I found it to be a very interesting episode. I got some good ideas about it to apply to my own D&D game. And one of the things that I was thinking about is the whole point of the inspiration not flowing. And I think that's something I'm going to try in my next game. And I'm really going to push my players to I'm going to start giving them inspiration. And if they don't have, but they can only have one, because that's the part that's in the rules. And that will make them realize that they have inspiration. I'm also going to give them, I like the idea of having a bunch of D20s that are all the same, some garish color, or maybe some, that are just different from their dice. So they realize, hey, that when I spend that die, I get to get advantage. Anyways, I thought it was a great episode, not correctly named. And, as always, Brett and Sean, you guys are doing great work. Thanks. Bye.
All right, then.
No, that was good stuff. Yeah, it was when we got going, the original question we had for our listener was around inspiration in meta currencies. And so we kind of drifted to the D&D 5e more. And I know we referenced other systems, but not nearly as heavily. So fair point, Mr. Shore. But I'm glad you enjoyed it for what it's worth, even though we had a shitty name. I'm glad you liked it, man. And as always, good to hear from you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
You can read the first one.
All right, let me just drop this quick into this so I can pull it up later. All right, Nick of House Hopkins coming out of the back catalog at episode 175 and 177.
Holy crap.
A little trip down memory lane for us, Brett.
What did we do back then?
Gentlemen, I have, as requested, started at episode 1 and I'm making my way forward.
Brave man, brave man. Some of those earlier episodes, as Sean has pointed out to me, sound like hell. So thank you for doing so.
I haven't felt the need to write in, but there were a few episodes clustered together that both made me want to speak up. Those episodes were 175 hidden hit points and 177 adversarial GMing.
Ooh.
I'm going to come out on the hidden hit points are bad side. Not bad in every situation, but bad for 5th edition D&D. So we should probably lay some context down. Do you remember that episode, Brett?
Vaguely. The idea was characters and players don't necessarily know how many hit points they have. Not even just the monster, but it's more descriptive in nature. You're hit, you're wounded, you are bloodied, using terms like that so that you would say, wow, sounds like I'm in rough shape. Yeah, you're dragging your left leg, your right arm's numb from the elbow down, your shield arm is wobbling, you're starting to see double. Do you think you want to stand there and let the giant hit you again? That type of thing.
Right. So he says, not bad in every situation, but bad for 5th edition D&D. One of the things that frustrates me most about 5e is that you can take enough damage to fall down, apparently dying on the ground when your hit points reach 0. After a quick rest, 1 hour or so, you are back up in fighting order. Up and in fighting order. Even without narrative hit points, I find it very hard to narrate what is happening in combat. You can narrate a horrendous wound to the gut that the character grabs before falling unconscious, but that wound, stated for narrative effect during combat, has absolutely no mechanical interaction with that character or the system once those hit points are recovered. And hit points are recovered very quickly in 5e. Adding hidden hit points on top of a system that is not emulating actual wound damage, just asking hit points to do more of what they aren't supposed to do. Sure, you can narrate wounds for flavor, but the hit points mechanics as written does nothing to support you with this, nor does it engage the mechanics beyond saying you are closer to being out of a fight. Let's face it, the chances of dying in 5e fight are approaching 0. I
disagree with that.
As
soon as they're down and at 0, you hit them.
Yeah, that's how I kill them. That's how you kill characters in 5e. When they're down, you go over and squish their face and do 1 point of damage.
And track exhaustion. You can die from exhaustion.
Yes.
Seriously, it's bam, 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 fucking dead.
Well,
you are tired to death.
So that gives me, just to go off on a side tangent about exhaustion, Brett. So I have 2 characters in my Tomb of Annihilation campaign, the old guy campaign, I'll call it. That's the face-to-face one with old buddies of mine. And one of them, they're a father-son player relationship. And one is, they're both paladins. One's wearing chainmail and one's wearing plate mail in the middle of a jungle. So I'm like, yep, every hour level of exhaustion. So I got him up to the point of exhaustion with level 3, disadvantage on all attack rolls. Disadvantage. And at that point, they are half speed. And they are also disadvantaged on skill checks and ability checks.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. So, but going back to killing somebody in 5e, you kill them, and if you have an intelligent creature and you want to make sure they're dead, you just go over there, do 1 point of damage. Boom, two death saves, gone.
Yeah.
Gone. Then they take more damage, 2 death saves, gone, dead, finished, end of story. That's just that's me. I don't.
The other thing, no, I agree with you. The other thing I'll throw out there is my buddy Nick does this in his 5e game. There are rules for gritty healing and damage. There are no short rests in Nick's game.
Oh, okay.
Long rest equals short rest. So again, is it by the original core rules? No, but it is an alternate way to go about it. There's also rules in some of the other books, Xanthos Guide, I think, and a few others that are out there. Maybe it's Mordenkainen's. Anyway. Lasting wounds are out there.
Oh, yeah.
There are ways to amp up the grit, right? To make it a little more oomphy. So you could do something with, you could take the narrative. Is it as good as what perhaps we may have talked about back at episode 175? Probably not. Sean and I were pretty on the ball back in those days, much more than we are now. But anyway, there is more in there that is rules-based, that actually has mechanical interaction, which I think Nick is what you're looking for. And I don't slight you for that at all, dude, because that is we've talked about this before. If it's only narrative and it doesn't impact the mechanics, sometimes the stuff has a hard time biting, right? Really impacting the gameplay in general. So I totally understand the reason to do it. And the more I game, the more I like to have some kind of a mechanical impact. But anyway, there are options out there. And if you are playing 5e and want to gritty it up a touch, I would suggest you do look into those.
For episode 177, adversarial GMing, I came up with a definition for this, and I figured I would share it with you. If you would rather keep the world closer to what is real instead of showcasing your PCs, you are an adversarial GM. If the opposite is true, then you are not an adversarial GM. I think this splits adversarial versus non-adversarial pretty decently, but it does cast a wider net over game masters who are adversarial. There are games where reality should take precedence over your characters. Playing these in this manner is not being a bad GM. As is almost always the case, context matters. If you are playing in a superhero game and the game master is bogging you down with minute details that are impacting your ability to engage with the genre. If you are playing a resource-driven post-apocalyptic game and the GM insists that it has to be on your character sheet or you don't have it, the GM is leaning into the genre. Making a story to craft an awesome story about your characters mean that everyone is on the same side. Making a story where these characters are antagonized by the setting is adversarial. There are places for both kinds of games. The trick, as a GM and as a player, is not to step in the way of whatever genre convention you are trying for. Sure, that makes sense to me.
That's a good way to go. I mean, part of these discussions that Sean and I have when it comes down to, hey, here's a term, here's a phrase, we're trying to figure this out too, right? Because we'll hear something, yes, clearly that's high fantasy. That's very low fantasy. And you actually sit and talk to people, the men and women you're gaming with, and like, that's not high fantasy. High fantasy is X. You're like, well, I wouldn't really call that high fantasy. And genre criticism and stuff in literature, people will say, well, Game of Thrones is clearly X type of literature versus this other type versus Dune versus whatever. Some people have said that Dune is space opera, and clearly that's stupid in my opinion. But somebody somewhere probably has what they feel is a good reason for a definition to stick, which is all the more reason to have open communications at the table and say, hey, I'm going to run this type of game. Instead of, well, yes, nod and nod. Back up what this type of game is or how you like to play with descriptions and ideas and definitions, as we have here from Nick, and you're going to go farther. Your crew's going to look at you and say, oh, that's what you mean by that? No, I don't like that. Oh, fuck yeah, dude, I'm in. I really like that stuff. Let's go. And I think the more you do not assume that that's what the players and the game master believe to be true, start with an agreed upon definition of those things. That's a good way to go. Anyway, sorry.
I have defined good players as people who push narrative in a direction appropriate to the genre they are playing. Players who violate the narrative or the genre that is agreed upon by everyone at the table are adversarial. I would also say they are being selfish assholes. Yeah, okay. Sorry I ran long there. Feel free to split this up into smaller chunks. I'm almost caught up on all the podcasts and appreciate all the work you guys put into this. Nick. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for writing in, buddy.
No, absolutely. Thank you for sticking with us for that long, too. I really appreciate it. That's very nice of you.
It is hard to kill people in 5e, but you just got to put your mind to it. That's all you got to do, Nick. Just wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to the table today.
Today is the day.
Today's the day. You just got to if you, have a vision board, one dead character, and you'll be surprised. It will actually come true.
It will come true. Honestly, with games, I've thought about this more and more when people say, oh, you can't kill anybody in new games today, whatever the hell, again, definition, what that means. Look at the rules and really dig into them. The conditions in 5e, look at what it takes. Like, oh, guy's poisoned. The poison gives him 3 levels of exhaustion. I just took him to 0. Oh, he's dead. Or whatever. I mean, oh, wow. 5 levels of exhaustion plus a critical hit. Oh, some bitch, he gone. It can happen. So sometimes it's not just hitting them until they're at negative enough hit points the death save is not the get out of jail free card. The other thing to do is the reason Joe Manganiello has death saves is he has like the Grindhouse version. If you go to his website, I believe he still has that posted out there. That's the hard version of death saves. So there's options out there. All right. Good Lord. What do we got here? George from House Sedgwick contacting us. Hey, here's a question. Maybe it's one to talk about on the podcast one day. I was listening to another gaming podcast. All right, George. Fess up. Who you listen to besides us? You're cheating on us, and we need to know. Let's just come clean. Anyway, in case you want to listen, he says it's the Smart Party, another episode on D&D 5e. All right, George, I forgive you. It's okay. It's okay. We can work through this, George. It's all right. You can listen to other podcasts. We'll just get over it. Anyway, he says on that one, the hosts agreed with each other that the monk class does not belong in D&D. They just don't feel that it fits. Fair enough. But it got me wondering, do others agree with that? Are there other classes, races, or species that you, Sean and Brett, would not include in games they appear in? Related, I think monks are fine, especially as one can reskin words like key or whatever if they're not campaign appropriate. So, Sean, apart from George's promiscuity across listening to other podcasts, which we'll just have to learn to get over, any initial thoughts on monks in general for 5e?
Gotta unmute myself. They've never bothered me because I always think of Kung Fu.
If you go back through the old Dragon magazine literature, and there are people who hate the monk. Doesn't fit.
Well,
I'm just saying it's out there when he says, do others think that? And yes, they absolutely do. And George, I am just giving you shit about the podcast thing, dude, obviously.
Yeah, they did. I could see why. I mean, if somebody came up to me and said, I don't want wizards in my game, I don't think they belong, or
clerics
or whatever. I mean, that's cool. That's fine to me. I don't see a problem with them, but I understand why people may not think they gel with the setting that they're running. That's fine,
Yeah,
this is with anything in role-playing games.
Yeah.
This is really, 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 really anything. And kind of the message on the last episode, not really, but if you want to play with monks, play with monks. If you don't want to play with monks, don't play with monks.
Correct.
Hey, but if you're in a game where one person wants to play with a monk and one person doesn't.
Well, I mean, you look at people who have read like hardcore Appendix N stuff, like our friends over at Appendix N Book Club, and there really are no clerics in Appendix N. Swords and sorcery, clerics, spellcasters are all sorcerers, wizards, warlocks, witches, things of that nature. The clerics are just priests that are trying, they really don't have any power. Anybody with any real magical power is a sorcerer, sorceress, wizard, witch, warlock type of thing. So there are people who, in looking at quote unquote pure Appendix N type of fantasy, would say, no, you shouldn't even have clerics. That doesn't even make sense if you're going to emulate that thing. So I think, Sean, what you're saying is much what I just said, or exactly what I just said. It depends what you want to emulate in your game.
Yeah.
What's the setting going to do? Does it fit?
And if it doesn't fit, is that why you put them in there?
Yeah, just to break it up a bit. I mean, like in my Avalon game, I don't have tieflings. I don't have dragonborn. I don't have that stuff.
Right. Yep.
Don't have sorcerers either. But hey, there you go.
There you go. Scotta House Murray from Facebook. Hi, guys. Thanks for all the fun. Listen in every episode now. Is there any chance you guys can do an episode on starting and running a con? So Scott got quite a bit of feedback. Actually, Chris Long was one of the folks that chimed in, a few others as well. Hopefully he's got a little bit more meat to follow up on, but if you want to chime in, we'll have a link to his conversation. I floated the idea from my local area, and a person pretty much said it wouldn't work. The area is obsessed with D&D, and nothing else will get run. They have tried at other cons and have DMs with no players, as players refuse to play their game and only want D&D. Apparently, players could even sign up for a game and dump it as soon as they saw a D&D table free. So yeah, would love to hear your thoughts.
So, Scott, I would need to know more about the area and what you mean by that. How big is that space? So in my hometown at EverCon, it's a very D&D heavy. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely D&D. So what a number of my game masters at the con have learned is that someone will walk up, because we charge to get in, but we do not charge for games unless it's a special event tournament or something. Someone will walk up and say, "Hey, I'm interested in your game. I'd like to sign up for it. What is it?" "It's like D&D, but instead of X, I do Y." "Oh, it's like D&D, but it's modern with horror elements called Cthulhu." "Oh, sure, I'll try that." That phrase, for whatever reason, at MyCon, for a number of the locals who are not big into trying different things, like, "Oh, it's like D&D except you use percentiles, huh? I'll try that." I don't know why, but that works. And that's kind of that environment. So, Scott, I need to know a little bit more from where I said before I would hand out too much advice around what's the obsession? Is it like 20 people? Is it 100 people? And the other component, too, depends on advertising and where you're planning to draw your players from. The other thing I do is I do leverage people like Cthulhu and other folks, excuse me, who I know who are willing to run other games, who are friends of mine, and I warn them, like, "Look, I want this con to have more than just D&D. Would you, lovely men and women, be happy to run a game?" And you might not get a lot of players. Might not have any, but I would just love to have you there to talk to people about games and so forth and see if we can get more people interested. And yeah, they do. They'll play Cthulhu's getting a bigger hold at EverCon and so forth. And some of it just comes down to having game masters who are willing to pimp their games, push them, get people interested, and so on. And yeah, D&D is a huge fucking draw. There's no way around it. But anyway, as Sean said, there was plenty of other advice and ideas on our Facebook page around this one. But I think we could pull together potentially an episode around it. I think this might be another one to bring Alex Kammer back in for if he's got time. Or maybe even a couple other folks might grab Sean Gilgo or somebody from QCC and just ask them some questions too. But anyway, I think we could, Scott, I think we could pull something together for you. We'll add that to the topic bucket. All right. Let's see here. Roger of House Bracelet. Oh, and Scott, thank you very much for the question. That's a damn good question. So it goes in the topic bin. Roger of House Bracelet says, online gaming, Tomb of Annihilation. Sean, why aren't you using Hangouts? Have you actually had problems with Hangouts yet, or are you just worried about them?
I don't know if they're going to be around forever.
But they're around right now, I think would be Roger's retort.
I guess. And then I'll have to change in a month or two when Google nukes them.
If they nuke them.
I heard they are. Like, I don't know. I mean, Google Plus isn't here. Feed Reader isn't here. What else have they nuked?
No, okay. No, I mean,
Wave.
fair.
I mean, I don't trust those guys. I mean, here's my humble opinion with Google. Screw Google. They're good. They're good for search. They're good for search. Thanks, Google.
All the documents we use?
I sometimes worry.
Yeah.
They're not going to get rid of Google Docs. I can't imagine they would. There's way too many people vested in that. But man, and Hangouts is okay.
So I think the question is, are you worried this can happen tomorrow, or are you worried that in 5 years? Because there's no way in hell your Tomb of Annihilation online game is going to last 5 years or 3 years or a year.
I have yet to see where they have stated that they are not going to get rid of Hangouts. I've seen where they have stated that they are, and that you would only get it when you pay for G Suite.
Okay.
But I don't trust those assholes with this stuff anymore.
So Sean has trust issues ever since G Plus went away.
I do, man. And G Plus was like the nail in the coffin for me. Like, I don't, fine if they want to get rid of it, but they've gotten rid of so much crap that people have really valued. But and I don't know, the quality's on Hangout. Sometimes it's hit or miss.
Okay.
I figure fair. Discord is, as far as I know, unless they're owned by somebody else that I'm not aware of.
Do you pay for Discord?
I don't pay for Discord, but I would be willing to.
Okay.
I would pay for Zoom if I knew I needed to.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah. That's the trick, right? Everybody, if you don't pay for it, then
it's hard to get your money back when you complain. Goddamn free service.
Yeah, I get it. But see, I figured Google and G Plus would have made that to leverage some type of revenue stream. Obviously, they either didn't, or it failed, or they didn't know how to execute on it. I don't know. I think it's the latter. But anyways, that's the reason, Roger.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So Roger, Sean has trust issues ever since G Plus collapsed.
I'm not even willing to buy an Android phone, man. I just don't like all the products that Apple has ever made. This is going to get into a pissing contest. I don't want to ruffle people's feathers, but that's just the way I feel. Damn it.
Fair enough.
All right.
Your feelings are legitimate. Oh, they're wrong, but they're legitimate. As wrong
I
as
have
they are.
feelings. My feelings are not wrong. I have them.
Oh, you have them.
I have them.
I don't know if are they wrong? Can you have wrong feelings, Sean?
No, you could have bad wrong feelings, I guess.
I don't know. this podcast is going off of Sean. Read the one from Chris of House Steel, would you?
Chris of House Steel. Hello, gentlemen. To add more fuel to the random character versus point buy conversation, for me, I just can't get attached to a character I'm literally rolling up. They feel like throwaway characters.
You need to use safety pins, Chris, and you connect them to your shirt.
Safety pins?
Attachment.
Oh.
Come on, Gus, dude.
Yeah, where's
Christ.
Oh, here it is.
Sorry,
there's the band.
Sorry, dad jokes. All right, carry on.
They feel like throwaway characters. I guess this works well with funnel type gameplay, but the idea of building a character just to watch it die in the first session or two seems pointless. This style of play is actually what kept me from playing D&D for the first 3 editions. Well, okay, I could see that. Brett and I grew up when it was like a magic user at 2 hit points.
Or 1.
Yeah, God.
Anyway.
Again, I look back at some of those games and can't believe I bought and paid for them and played them.
That's because we didn't play them the way they were written, dude. Nobody did. No one I knew, anyway. I'm sure somebody somewhere was, but anyway, carry on.
My D&D origin story, 1985, 11-year-old Chris rolls up first level thief. First level thief walks into the first room in the dungeon and triggers a trap. First level thief is dead within the first 5 minutes of play. 11-year-old Chris watches everyone else play for the next 4 hours and thinks, fuck D&D, and goes and picks up a champion's book.
Chris, you had a bad dungeon master, dude.
Yeah.
Should have been, not that you're dead, but like, all right, here, make another character.
I'll get you in as soon as you're done.
Yeah, get a character. You will whoop you in there. He'll get you. And hey, 11-year-old Chris, language.
Right. Come on.
Easy.
God, the Steel parents. I mean, come on.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the fuck, man? No parent would be cussing like that shit. Wait.
No.
Says me. Carry on.
Once they fixed the random problem in 4th edition, I was hooked on D&D. 4th just felt more balanced to me. Fine, overbalanced and board game-like, but it let the players be heroes, and that was cool. Now 5th is much better than 4th and provides a happy middle ground, but any campaign IDM still always uses the non-random organized play rules for character creation and leveling. That is to say, point-buy stats and no random rolls for hit points. As for inspiration in D&D, I just can't get into the mindset to give it out. And even if I do, I find the players tend to avoid using it since they can only have one, so they hoard it. So in my current campaign, I'm trying this. At the campaign, or at the beginning of a session, I give the group inspiration equal to the number of players. Anyone can spend them as normal to gain advantage as long as the group agrees. But I also add a Benny-like option so they can spend them after the roll to roll again. But that doesn't count as having advantage, it's just a reroll. In our last session, one character spent all 4 to keep rolling on one check until he succeeded. The emotional roller coaster of watching 4 fails in a row and then a success had everyone cheering. It's inspired me to keep using this system going forward. Chris.
I like that idea. That's similar to what Sean and I brought up around light side, dark side points, right? They're a pool that the entire table gets to use. I like that idea. I like that. And Chris speaking, giving shit to Sean about his feelings being non-legitimate. No, dude, if that what Chris describes up there around 4th, the way he likes the balance, the way he liked the heroic approach and so forth, legit, man. Not my style, but that's totally fine. You know, it doesn't. D&D 4E, I've played it. I did not like it very much. But that was me, and that was then. And I'm positive if Chris were to say, "Hey, Brett, I'm going to run D&D. We're going to play 4th edition." I'm like, Chris is a cool dude. He's a good game master. I'd sit down and play with Chris. And I think Again, that's why there's so many different games out there, so many different gaming styles. As long as people do as Chris does and say, man, I just don't like that. I like this other thing better. I want to play this way. And don't shit on each other for preference. I think we'll all get along just fine. Thank you, Chris. Good stuff, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Oh, and kiss the baby for me. He's adorable.
Yeah. What do we say? Hugging babies, kissing
wives? No, don't do that.
don't
Wrong
do that.
idea. Don't do that.
That's
That's how you get shot. Hey, all right. So next up, we've got let's see, Voldemort. He who shall not be named.
Voldemort. All right.
Wishes to throw a little something from a real world example at us here.
All right.
In reference to 239, recovering from a bad game. I'm going through this right now, in fact. Our close-knit game group brought in 2 people that the DM works with, and things just aren't working out. It's only been 3 sessions, about 10 hours apiece, but it's painfully obvious we are 2 different styles. The 3 of us, without the DM, have discussed over next Sunday night, over text Sunday night, kind of venting and wondering where we go from here. Then we slept on it and talked over Discord for about 2 hours last night on Tuesday. We're all on the same page, agree that this just isn't going to work, and we want to end it tactfully. The DM is a very close friend of ours. It's not him, it's them. I brought up to the party how this has been mentioned a bit on the podcast before. If the party doesn't work, why waste everyone's time trying to make it work? I hate to give up on a good campaign too early, but my time away from my wife and kids is precious to me. If we're making this a monthly thing, then let's make sure we're all having fun. Dude, absolutely. Amen.
You can't. We're too old for that shit. You gotta spend your time where you enjoy it.
He says 2 of his members drive over 2 hours one way to make it to that session. I've got a 3-hour drive to my home crew, right? If I'm not having fun, fuck it. Anyway, he goes on. Anyway, I'm not trying to make this long-winded, but our biggest roadblock is how do we do this nicely while not hurting anyone's feelings? There's no good answer, of course. You just have to know the person really well. And since we're not just ending the game, but also breaking up the new party and don't really want anything to do with these other 2, we need to make sure it's clear what the reasoning is and what the outcome is that we hope for, to all continue to play together and be friends, just minus the 2 others. This really isn't looking for advice or anything, but just wanted to bring it up as a real-world example of how listening to the podcast has kind of helped shape some of those decisions that we make. We are all getting to the point in our lives where we don't want to put up with any of that shit, you know? Absolutely. So sometimes you just have to do what's right for the good of the group and break it up if need be.
Okay, great. Thanks, Voldemort.
No, it's good stuff. I think it's very, as we said, Sean, it's real world, as he says, and it's a son of a bitch. He's got people driving 2 hours one way. Like I said, I drive 3 hours a game with my crew. It's a long way to go, and it's a big time away from my wife and kids is precious. Time away from your wife and the stuff you've got going, Sean, that's precious too. I mean, hey, we're going to get together and go do this thing. Did you have fun? No, the game kind of sucked. I got some people who are assholes, or the game master's no good. Why are you still going?
Yeah, you got to.
And I know it sucks, and I know it's uncomfortable, but how much does it suck and is uncomfortable that you were freaking miserable for 10 hours, right? He's doing once a month long session for him like I do. 8 to 10 hours? If it's miserable for 10 hours? Jesus. You know, if that was your job, you'd look for a new one. Right? So this is your fun. Look for a new group to have fun with. Anyway, over to you, Sean.
All right. Jason of House R. Hey guys, I'm helping Pelgrim Press run games at Gamehole this year. I would like to extend the invitation to Brett and many of your listeners. GMs will get swag, coupons, and a free adventure. I will place a post on MeWe for anyone that's interested, but feel free to forward my contact info to anyone who you think might be interested. Thanks, and keep up the awesome work. Jason. So I know Jason. He's a friend of mine out of the Twin Cities. Really.
Oh, Jason? Jason? I know Jason. Oh, fuck yeah. Okay. I was going to ask you if you knew. All right.
Yeah. So if you are interested in running if you're a Pelgrim Press fan and would like to run games at Gamehole Con and want to get some swag from Pelgrim Press, let us know and we'll put you in touch with Jason. Just say, hey.
Pass me Jason's contact info. I could probably run one.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be 4 games, but what the fuck? Why not? I'll run a Trail of Cthulhu something.
Knights Black Agents would be kind of cool, but
yeah, I don't know that one as well.
I don't know either. Okay, that's Jason. So if you want,
seriously though, hook me up, dude.
So if you want to get the in on that, send us your email to gamingandbs@gmail.com. Say, hey, I want to run games under Pelgrim Press, and forward my info to Jason, and we'll do that.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right. So.
Oh, what do we got next? Oh, Crimfan's back. All right. Crimfan comments on meta currencies. Inspiration doesn't work super well in 5e because it's not actually integrated into the game. The designers just grafted it on and essentially provided no hooks in the game system to make use of it. Well, kind of bardic inspiration, he said weakly. That was an aside. Back to Crimfan. It's the equivalent of painting flames in the side of the family sedan. I also don't like it because it creates a lot of flaw whoring for inspiration, which is annoying, and sometimes people get sulky when they feel that something that deserved inspiration didn't get it. It also adds to the DM burden. So yeah, I'd say it was a natural one on the part of the WotC staff. They were so daft about it that they named the class feature Bardic Inspiration. The same thing. I tried the crazier color D20 trick, but that failed. Advantage really isn't all that great either. It doesn't help characters who really need it all that much. And the way inspiration works, by the by, is that you don't get rerolls. You have to declare its use in advance. Correct. By contract, threat and momentum from Modiphius's 2D20 games like Star Trek Adventures, Conan, John Carter, etc. is very well integrated into the game. It's very much a part of how the game runs. Everyone understands it pretty fast and plays very well, though it kind of reads strangely. You guys are a bit off on how it works, though it differs from game to game somewhat. Momentum is generated by the PCs, while threat happens when PCs roll complications or have to press their luck and accept threat to succeed at a cost. One thing that's really useful about threat and momentum is the fact that it's not used for XP, unlike character points, bennies, etc., in many other games such as Bennies and Savage Worlds. So there are zero incentives to hoard. You generate momentum and want to spend it fairly quickly, and there are lots of reasons to take threat, which creates the kind of swingy ebb and flow of pulp source material. I did make inspiration system that works, like threat momentum, which I'll post separately. Very cool. Good Lord. So we've got, let's see, good and ill fortune is what Crimfan had put together. Party starts each session with 3 good fortune dice. This is sounding a bit like Chris Steele's idea up above. There are d6s that can be rolled for any ability, attack, or saving throw, but before the roll is resolved. Ordinarily, only one die can be rolled, but another can be rolled by pressing your luck. This adds an additional d6 to the roll, but at the cost of an ill fortune die. In addition, if there is no good fortune, one can be taken, but this adds a die to the ill fortune pool. Ill fortune functions exactly like good fortune, but is used to reduce the PC's roll by the value shown on the die or cancel out a good fortune die. The ill fortune die is rolled by the affected PC player. This is for players who have major dice superstition. I try to award good fortune for having a good idea that pushes the session forward, doing something that helps the party, such as helping a fallen comrade, or for a particularly good pass of role-playing. The main thing is that this is a group resource, so I'm not awarding it to anyone in particular. I aim to hand out 3 per session. At the end of the session, any unspent good fortune resets back to 3. Ill fortune reduces by 1 and carries over to the next session. So there's no incentive, to hoard, but some danger to building up a lot of ill fortune. So that does sound a bit like Mr. Chris Steele's idea. A bit of a twist on it. I like it. That's cool. This is, if I read that and someone went, what? That's fine. Look in the show notes and you'll have the full verbal description from Crimfan so you can understand better than my poor reading of it. But Crimfan, thank you as always for your well thought out ideas and rules approaches there. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Crimfan.
Over to you, Sean.
Peter of House Isaacs left us some feedback. Hello, gents. A few things. First, I wanted to say thank you for the podcast. It got me to focus on something else during the hardest time of my life. I've listened to almost all of your episodes. Unlike Star Wars, I started from the beginning. Hey. Thanks, Peter.
And a Star Wars slam. That's good for me. I like that.
You know. Secondly, I wanted to say that Sean is always right about everything.
What the fuck?
Is that not what it says, Brett? I didn't make that up.
I don't see.
I should have had you read this one.
No. What I need Peter to email me specifically offline and tell me that's what he really said. Now I'm wondering if somebody's been stirring the something, whatever.
I might have to send Peter a little something. Thirdly,
you didn't already pay him for that.
I did not. Thirdly, I have purchased Call of Cthulhu on drive-thru solely based on how you guys rant and rave about it. And yes, I purchased it through the link on your website. Gonna start trying to learn this new system. Oh,
Very
man.
cool.
Dude, you're just something else, man. Thanks, dude.
Well, good on you, Peter. Even if you read through it and you're like, wow, I tried it, man, that didn't work. I'll try it again. You're going to learn a lot by reading through it and just delving into that game system. It's a damn good game.
And lastly, per episode 11, gaming stores. My wife won't go with me to any of them anymore. When
Holy
she walked
shit.
into this last store in Phoenix, everyone was looking at her like she was a goddess, which she is. Well, I would have probably phrased it a different way. Like, I'm sure they were looking at her because she was like a goddess, but it probably felt for her something else.
They're probably drooling and
Right.
looking like a bunch of fucking mouth-breathing morons.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
That and the fact that the store probably has never been vacuumed or dusted. Yeah. Yeah. And they're so busy during the day when nobody's in there.
I know.
That and the fact that the store probably okay. The one cool thing that happened in the store was that the cashier had blessed my dice as I paid for them. That, or he cursed them. Thanks and keep it up, Peter. So she will hopefully appreciate last episode on with Paige.
Yeah.
Dude,
Just from a raw customer service perspective, you're running a store that's open to the public. For God's sakes.
yeah, well, it's like walking into a fraternity, right?
Sometimes, and just dumb all around.
It's not all game stores. Some are clean. For those that are awesome game stores, thank you for being awesome.
I'll tell you what, folks. If you live in a town and you have an amazing kick-ass game store, Sean and I have talked about. Oh my God, I'm losing it. I'm bored.
Yeah,
Great game shop. I know there's other good ones out there. If you know of them, feel free to post. Send us an email.
send us an email. Who they are, where they are, and why are they awesome.
Yeah, I would love to pimp that shit. If nothing else, just on the webpage, we might be able to show on just an idea off the top of my head here. Maybe we have a list of, hey, listeners supported shops, just something, because I'll tell you, man, good game stores, when you find them, they're fucking awesome. And sometimes they're like unicorns. So if you've got one, let us know. It'd be cool.
Yeah.
We can pass the word around.
Sorry to hear the news. Pass along the sorry to your wife. Hopefully, well, I don't know if she games or not. If she's a gamer, not that matters. But hopefully, she games and that hasn't turned her off from gaming.
Yeah, good Lord.
So,
all right, let's see. James is writing back in, and dear BNS, I enjoy your podcast and want to thank you for taking the time and effort you invested into making a podcast. We all appreciate it. I was wondering if you really think it would be worth discussing how to scale a D&D game when you only have 2 players. Recently, I left my original D&D group because of a toxic masculinity being exhibited within the group. Too many of the players wanted to min-max their characters, and many of them enjoyed arguments about rules and rules application. Since leaving the group, I started running 5e D&D game for just 2 players. It's been a blast, but as they go up in levels, I'm beginning to realize the challenge of only 2 players in team. During a battle, if one goes down, the battle can really go south really quick. Nerfing the monsters at high levels can make the monster seem less monsterly. I was wondering if you guys have any Sage or Tarragon advice on how to scale encounters when your party is small, 2 to 3 players. One thing I've been doing is reducing the number of legendary actions a boss opponent can have, reducing the number of minions, but it seems to dilute the fights just too much. I've added an NPC to the team to cover skills/abilities that they're lacking, but it often feels like I'm invoking a Deus Ex Machina element to the game. An NPC can outshine the player. Not cool. Maybe there's not a perfect solution, but I appreciate your thoughts on the matter. Oh yeah, I took up your advice and bought the massive Nyarlathotep Gamer Prop set. Gamer Prop. Oh my God. 10 years from now, when I retire from this game, this shit better be awesome, or I'll be leaving incoherent Alzheimer's-soaked ramblings in your voicemail. Best regards, James.
yes, the circle is complete, James.
That is a damn good topic idea, James. We've not talked about small form or small group gaming, because not a lot of groups. There are some games out there that are specifically designed, Gumshoe 1-to-1, Hour Between Dog and Wolf, and there's a couple others that are 1-on-1. But I was just running AD&D for my 2 kids. Yesterday was when AJ's character died. And there's a couple different ways around that, especially in the D&D space. But I think that's definitely a good topic. So I will add that to the topic list. Thank you, James.
Well, James, you're going to be in luck, buddy, because the D&D Essentials that they're going to be releasing in Target stores throughout the nation is going to offer some rules for small parties.
Nice.
Yep. So in case you weren't aware, there is I think it's, I don't know if it's sidekicks or it's going to be like one-on-one D&D, if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be that it's going to facilitate.
Cool.
But we'll have a link in the show notes to an article on IGN about that, because I think they mention it specifically.
Well, some of the stuff is like, do I need a new, it's like advice, ideas, tricks, tools of the trade. And then there's also, how do I make it, if there's nothing official, if you're not using an official mechanic or official rule set that does the thing, how do you modify what you already have, what everybody knows and loves, right?
There it is.
Cool.
The kit includes new rules variant for one-on-one play where DM and one player can run Dragon of Icespire Peak, which is the adventure inside the new starter set, using sidekick rules to fill out a party with non-player characters.
So basically that's henchmen and hirelings. Just name something cool now.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, we'll talk about it, James. I've got that in the list. Thank you, sir.
John from House Coward writes in about TPK. Hi, Brett and Sean. I dig your podcast as always, but I am compelled to write after listening to the episode on TPKs. After 40 plus years of playing RPGs, I decided to run my first con game last February. Never too late.
Very cool. Very cool.
I was motivated in no small part by both of your positive and upbeat attitudes on running con games. I had never run a game for people I didn't know and know well at that. To say the least, I was curious as to how well my style would work for other people. For my first con outing, I ran a Dread scenario set on a cruise ship. As you might have guessed, everyone died. What are you going to do?
You're playing Dread, dude. When the block tower falls. Keep going.
However, I think everyone had a great time, too. People who died nearly hung around to see how the game turned out. The last couple of characters could have lived through it, but decided to sacrifice themselves to ensure their loved one's safety. Thank you for the encouragement and keep up the great work. John Coward. K-word. Pronounced K-word. Oh, man. Sorry, John. K-word. Let's see. P.S. I would love an episode on RPG magic items. Maybe something like what qualities make a great RPG magic system, or how can magic be made fun for the non-magic users in group. PSS, I didn't say this earlier. It was my first TPK as well. Hey, look at that. John K-word. All these damn now I got to go and edit the Patreon list at the end of every show that you're on, John. But thanks for correcting us. And awesome. Good for you, man, for stepping up and running a game.
At a con. It's awesome.
And
you ran a game. I don't know if, and John didn't say here, but let's assume one of those people had not played Dread before. People who died early hung around to see how the game turned out. Holy crap. People were interested. They had fun. And somebody somewhere was then exposed to a game they'd not played before, or maybe only heard about, right? And they had fun. And that's awesome. I mean, anytime people stick around to see how the game turns out, even if their characters are dead, John, you did a fine job, man. Very well done. Good work. Cool. Mm-hmm. All right. Good Lord. Kojo's back. Steal myself. Hang on. Get a little bourbon here. All right. Kojo. At the risk of playing ping-pong responsive with Carson on the issue I'd previously asked about, I understand that Carson and I prefer different styles, so there really isn't a point to argue there, but I did want to provide some additional context to my original thoughts. One, I can't speak for more modern games like 5-Year Pathfinder, but in other games I'm familiar with, average stats like 11s do not handicap a character. It may make some things more difficult, but that doesn't mean the character is doomed. Even characters with some scores in the 5 to 7 range are still very playable in all the games that I play. And I play some pretty deadly games. DCC, First Ed AD&D, BX, Call of Cthulhu, etc. Number two, I often get a sense from talking to gamers who are much newer to the hobby than I am that there's an assumption that older games are somehow lesser. Games have certainly gotten more complex, and gaming theory has changed and evolved, but I would caution anyone to assume that old tropes and mechanics are in some way flawed and that they only hold onto them for nostalgia reasons. 3, to Carson's point about min-maxing resulting from players being denied the agency of doing things, not listed on the character sheet, and are not being given meaningful choice during character creation. I can't speak to other people's tables, but at my table this is not an issue. It is actually the opposite. Many older gamers lacked the detailed skills, feats, etc. that newer games have in them. Many older games, not gamers, many older games lacked the detailed skills, feats, etc. that newer games have in them. If anything, this leads my players to have more agency about doing things not on their sheets. There are very few limits to what they can try. The odds of success may be vary based on what they are trying to do, what their ability scores are, etc., but they are free to try pretty much anything. Therefore, my players do not feel the need to min-max their PCs at the start of play because they understand that I will likely roll with what they bring me during the campaign. If anything, I feel my players have more overall agency than I would often hear about newer edition games.
Yeah, that's something important where I think is lost on some gamers that has been part of the min-max piece of some of the other more tactical ones.
Well, we've talked about skills before. We had an episode on this where I ran Lamentation of Flame Princess. I've run BX-style games, and I've had guys in my group without a character sheet with a full list of skills. I don't know what to do.
Well, not even that.
No, some people stop. They don't know what to do without a list.
No, but what I'm talking about is the fact that you got to have an 18 to do anything, or you got to have a score with a modifier to do anything. You don't.
Got it.
You don't need. What Kojo is saying is, and I understand completely, is an 11 is not a bad score. A 9 is not a bad score. It'll modify maybe 1 or 2 skills in 5e, but if that piece is not specifically applied to a mechanic in a negative manner, then who gives a shit if it's an 8, 5, 6, 4? It doesn't matter. So if you play it that way, right? I'm saying back in the day that there are maybe a couple of skills like fighter wanted damage and to hit, so their strength was always going to be high.
Yeah, if his intelligence is low, he doesn't have any extra languages. If his wisdom is low, he doesn't get a slight bonus.
He doesn't
against
speak
saving
another
throws.
language. Who gives a rat's ass back then, right?
Yeah.
So the con may come into play, but other than that, it doesn't. They didn't have skills, so it wasn't like, well, if I have a low here and low this and a low that, then all my skills suck and I can't do anything, which is not the case. And that's what they fixed in 5e anyway. 5e, you get an ability check. It's an ability check, and then your skill modifies it, essentially, right? So you make a dexterity acrobatics check.
Well, back in the day, if you made an ability check, it was roll under the number usually. In my experience.
Right.
And now, because higher is better, and now it's against a DC, the difficulty class or whatever, the challenge, whatever you want to call it, is make a dex check, make a wisdom check, make a this check, which is basically, but add your acrobatics if you have it. Great.
Right.
But the DC's 20. Fuck.
Right. I've yet to have a DC 20.
Oh, wow, you don't play with me enough.
5e? You have a DC 20 in 5e.
Fuck yeah, I mess with people all the time, dude.
Dude, you're I guess.
What,
that's crazy high.
Yeah? You don't know what they were trying to do.
That's true. But you made it sound like you have them every day.
No, what I'm saying is those things are out there, right? You have DC levels, and I'm not talking about the frequency of a DC difficulty. What I'm saying is I'm backing you up.
Okay.
I'm backing you up. It's a skill check. And there is oftentimes a feeling that if you have a skill that has a negative in it, I suck. That does hit some players. I only have a 3, I blow. I only have an 8, I suck. I've got a negative. I only have a +0. I'm terrible at this. It does happen. Now, that doesn't mean that, what Kojo is saying is that he can't speak for other tables, which is absolutely true. He can't. Yeah. And I can tell you that I have played with people who don't know how to or want to, I guess. I shouldn't say don't know how to because that's too strong. They don't want to play without a list of skills. They don't. and which is why the gamer gods made many games. Anyway, we got one more point here. Number 4. Finally, I think there's an assumption by some gamers that their fighter isn't significantly different from their friends on paper, and that it isn't fun to play, per Carson's example of Fighter 6 versus Fighter 7. But on my table, and going back to my beginnings in the hobby, it was never looked at in that manner. 2 players rolled characters with similar stats, and both had a strength of 14 as their best score, and they both probably would take fighters based on their stats. However, they would also have significant agency to make their fighters unique and very different from each other, simply through character bits they developed during the campaign. For example, Chris's fighter would now buy a bow and have a background as a hunter, giving him some advantage in certain situations with a bow over Tom's fighter. Tom may choose to have his fighter be more barbarian, who likes to smash things and charge in the melee. The point is, at my table, you could give all my player characters with the same stats, the same class, and each player would make that character their own, and my campaign choices and mechanical rulings would give them an amazing amount of agency in making their characters their own, without having to do it at the character creation before they've gotten a whiff of what's going to happen in the campaign. Hope that clarifies some things. Thanks, DM Kojo.
Yeah, I also on that bit too, and I know Brett's talked about some of his group wanting to play a different system so that they could be different based on the build.
Yeah,
and I would say, if you took all of Game of Thrones and everybody that wielded a sword, are they all different?
I don't watch Game of Thrones, dude. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Vikings. Any show with people wielding swords.
That's how they fight. It's who they are. Yeah, they're all different.
They're all different. They're all different people. They're all different. But so to say like one fighter is the same over the other just because they have the same stats is...
But I think, to go back to Carson's point, though, Carson very clearly said, this is not my type of jam. I prefer this other stuff. I don't like this feeling.
Sure.
I like this other thing. And I think I've met Kojo. I've talked to Kojo. Nice guy, reasonable dude. He'd be like, not my gig. Nah, that's not my kind of fun. I like this other kind of fun. And I think the danger any of us get into, and this is, put Carson and Kojo aside, the danger any of us can get into is when we say someone is having bad round fun one way or another. The game you're playing has no agency. The game you're playing doesn't allow for X. You're only doing that. This is unbalanced, blah, blah, blah. If they're having fun, and I know some people get off on this too, and they'll get pissy because they'll say, if you're having fun, that's good enough. But honestly, if you're not gaming to have fun, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Right? So if Carson's saying, look, man, I get Kojo. I just can't I don't think I would have fun doing that. It's not my thing. I've looked at it. Doesn't turn my crank at all. Carson, awesome. Totally cool. Kojo's like, I just don't want to do that newer thing. It just doesn't, I have all this fun over here. Awesome. I told AJ, my youngest son, the other day, I said, he was asking me about different games and if I had my eye on something new. And I said, you know what, AJ, I'm getting very picky about the games I buy. Dark Trails from our buddy Dave Beatty, not just because he's our buddy, but I've played it, I like it, and I don't have a Western. I would really like a Weird West game. I think it'd be fun. I looked at Deadlands, did not enjoy the rule set. So, hey, this looks cool. But my larger point is that Sean and I each have enough games in our collection right now, between PDFs and hardcovers, I never need to buy another game again. Ever. One of the main reasons I think often we'll hunt for a game because, we really think this looks cool. We really think whatever. But at the end of the day, sometimes the reason we end up buying new games is because I don't have them to play with. If I want to play face-to-face, I'm like, I really want to run a BX game. I want to run Osric. I want to run first edition AD&D. I want to run Star Frontiers. I don't have anyone who has it, knows it, understands it, or wants to learn it. Okay, I'll buy the Star Trek game because there's gamers I know and like who I want to play that with. But I think there's so many different types of fun. Kojo's type versus Carson's type, and it's not even a versus. They're just different flavors of both having a good time and ensuring that they feel that they have maximum agency, they have the maximum ability to kick some serious ass at the table. And if you found a groove that really works for you, that's awesome. Stick with it as long as you can. And, you can try new stuff. I've talked to Kojo. He'd try something. If I say, hey, I want you to try this Avalon game. We're running 5e. He'd be like, all right, not my thing, but I got time. Sure, I'll sit down. I'll try it out with you. I'll play. No, and he'd have fun. I know he'd have fun. He might walk away going, yeah, I really wish you would have ran it with BX, though. I'd had more fun with that. It's just whatever. It really doesn't matter. But I think good comment back from Kojo, just to kind of level set. And I think even Carson's perspectives, not even, that sounds like I'm dismissive of you, Carson. I apologize. But I think Carson's perspectives are valid too. That's just not the type of fun that he likes or prefers. And that's absolutely legit. Sean, anything from you?
No, I think that there's such more room for, I don't know why some people get caught up with certain things. I guess that's their jam, which is fine. But I just, and I also think it's the type of game you're playing. If you're running BX and the abilities aren't that big a deal where they are maybe in a Pathfinder game, I get it. As a matter of fact, I would almost go to say that Pathfinder's built for min-maxing. You want to min-max? Play Pathfinder.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
That's what you do. That's the whole thing. Not the whole thing, but
they have a book on it.
Right. Well, yeah.
They do. They have an entire hardcover book dedicated to making the best character possible.
And that's okay. But then you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Then it would suck to have an 11.
Yeah, it would.
Oh, yeah, I got an 11.
Well, again, I think
it's like an average score.
Yeah,
I think Brett and I are like an 11. 10.
9 for intelligence, 2 for charisma. It depends on the day.
Yeah.
If I've had my coffee. No, it's, I don't know. I go back and forth. Newer games, I don't even know how that's defined anymore. There's some really cool shit out there. I'm like, wow, that's really neat. Oh, I like that. I like this. I like that. I have 3 different versions of Call of Cthulhu on my shelf. I really don't even need the new one. I can play 5th edition Call of Cthulhu until I die or go insane or both. And it would be fine. No one would, as long as I've got players. And I think, like I said, I don't know. If you found a jam, you really like it, stick with it, And the only thing that would probably draw people away from a jam that they really, really like is they can't find anyone to play with. But again, there's a golden age of gaming. If you're not afraid to game online, or you're not worried about it, you're willing to try it, go, and you'll find somebody out there who's going to run that old game. I could go out there right now and say, hey, I'm going to run Star Frontiers on Roll20. I would get a full table. I'm positive. So anyway, good Lord, dude.
Yeah.
Keep going. I think we might have to skip the topic. What do you think?
Yeah, we could skip it if
we'll
we
have
want.
to move it. We'll have to move it out.
We can move it out to the next one.
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
All right, let's get it. Okay, so next week we'll have the topic, which we'll mention in just a second. But let's get into die roll. There's a couple we can go through on this one. All right, so die roll, Dark Trails from Dave Beatty. Check it out. When's the Kickstarter go till, Brett?
Let me double check. It's got, I think, like 27 days.
It's fully funded.
Oh yeah, totally funded. He only needed 12. He's at $25,011 as of right now. He's got 27 days to go. June 16th at 11 a.m. Central. It will stop. But yeah, go out there, take a look at it. If it's not your jam, you're like, so it's using DCC chassis, Weird West. I already really like my Deadlands game. It's not my thing. Love you, Dave. But whatever. That's fine. But just drawing your attention to it. It's a cool thing. I backed it. There we go.
That was a long vibration. Brett's appearance on the Appendix N podcast goes live
tomorrow,
the day after we record this.
Yeah, so May 20th. So that's Monday. Oh, neat. That's cool.
Listen to Brett talk about reading a book
or a series of short stories.
Yes. Custom 5e character sheets as seen on Geek Native. You should check these out. These things are crazy silly. It's like the character sheet is an art piece. I think it was.
Is it?
Yeah, it's nuts. Like nuts good. Nuts phenomenal.
Oh my God. I just went to the link you have.
It's crazy cool.
Jesus.
And I think that they
stare at that. You could stare at that fighter character sheet and just, wow.
They're doing it for a few bucks. I think on a Facebook page or something like that. The artists were. But anyways, check that out.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, you got to check that out. I think I posted pictures to our Instagram about these character sheets. D&D Essentials Kit. We briefly mentioned it earlier. It's announced at D&D Live 2019, which is this just past weekend. There's an article on IGN that talks about what it's going to be about. It offers new one-on-one rules, 64-page rule book, dice, to include 2 D20s and I think a few D6s, 4 D6s, so you could roll abilities, go figure, and then you have 2 D20s for advantage and disadvantage. There's a new map, scenario that kind of takes on to the area of the Phandalin, which is in the starter set.
Yeah, Dragon of Icespire Peak is scalable characters, levels 1 through 6, takes place the same location, Lost Mines of Phandelver. It's like $25 at most Target stores in North America on June 24th. Everywhere else, September 3rd.
There you go.
$25. Holy crap.
Yeah. So check that out when it comes out. Okay, Brett. So what are we talking about next week?
Well, next week we're going to talk about hindrances and flaws. Wait, hang on. Is Dave Beatty coming next week? Is that next week? Is he coming?
Oh, I don't know. Is it in the calendar?
It could be. It might be. I'll have to check. Hang tight. Look, we're either going to talk hindrances or flaws. We're going to have Dave Beatty on. It's either going to be hindrances and flaws or westerns. So we're going to find out.
Okay.
Because I knew we wanted to get him on. And so Mr. Beatty is a firefighter, professional, full-time. So we were going back and forth on times. Hey, we want to talk westerns. He's like, oh, that sounds really fucking cool. It'd be great. And I said, when can you get on? He goes, well, here's my calendar. You see all the ones that say active? Yeah. He goes, well, if I'm on and I get a call, I got to go. I'm like, well, that could be kind of fun to hear the loud bell ringing and then he just disappears. But that might not be as much fun for him. So it'll be one of those two. I'll figure it out. We'll make it happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the feedback.
Oh, it is. It's 26th. Haha.
All right. So I guess we're talking to Dave next week.
Yes, we are.
Thanks for everybody that's written in, and everybody having an opinion and feedback and ways to play the game and sharing those ways. My name is Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
This episode of Gaming and BS brought to you with the help from the following BSers: Graham Minor, Corey Wynn, Andy Hall, Hawk Sparrow, Larry Hout, Mark Tasaka, Pure Mongrel, Chris Steele, Ron Bishop, Thomas Hook, Wayne Humphrey, Craig, Brandon Barnes, Laramie Wall, Dan LaValle, Jason Hobbs, Sky, Roger Braslett, John Hammersley, Old School DM, Perry Basor, Michael Dinos, Jim Fitzpatrick, Christopher Gray, Bruce Cunnington, John Coward, John Kayward, Corey Gonzalez, Eileen Barnes, Robert Nemeth, Niall Diamond, Angus, Howard Bishop, Stefan Dragonspawn, Mark Anthony Benedetti, Eric Salzwedel, Trevor Davis, The Closet Gamer, Jeff Goad, Aaron Coleman, Ray Otis, C.W. Mellencamp, Craig Huber, Rich Wishen, or is it Wishan? Or is it Wishone? Rich. Chad Glayman, Finolf, Merkel Froelich, Lord Tentacle, Joe Swick, Curtis Takahashi, Josh Wallace, Kevin Lovecraft, Andy Olson, Tony Sugarloaf Baker, and Jeff Seifert. For ways to support the show, head over to gamingandbs.com/support-us. Thanks, BSers!
This has been a Litterbox Studio production.